Yearbook by Seth Rogen. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Samuel and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, Sugar wants to make self-growth normal, then make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. This is probably the worst thing that I could possibly say in the beginning of a Seth Rogen book review. But please hear me out. I don't really like Seth Rogen. As a comedian, of course, I'm sure he's a very pleasant guy. In fact, he really seems like one. I don't know what it is, but I haven't really seen that much of his work, so I really don't think that my opinion should hold that much weight either. The movies I have seen, I don't remember. But what I do remember is not being very impressed. It was always funny, but never laugh out loud funny. And I feel like Rogen gets this reputation as a guy who is he's just known for being laugh out loud funny. I don't feel bad about saying all of this because Rogen probably has like haters like anyone else of his level of fame. Let's be real, he has probably heard a million times worse than this.
But Sam, if you don't like his work, why are you reviewing his book?
As always, if it's a recent bestseller, I gotta see what the hype is about, even if it's a book whose author I'm not crazy about. And quite frankly, I check out books like this from authors who either I'm not crazy about or not familiar with their work. I'm often pleasantly surprised and impressed. In fact, it's pretty common. Kevin Hart, Matthew McConaughey, definitely Matthew McConaughey. That dude knows how to write a memoir. Trent Shelton and Jay Shetty on the self-help front. But like, this has happened before. So I'm trying to open my mind up a little here, and I'm looking forward to it. I think there might be something going around, some sort of like memoir bug. All these well-known people in today's world putting out memoirs. First off, and this is when I say first off in a lot of reviews, I don't say this. I don't think I've ever said this in the beginning of, a first off of my summary. Some of the chapter, or I guess essay or story names, they contained words that I had to change from autocorrect like 3 times. Like Yid, Xenu, or was. And he begins by talking about his grandparents. If he was raised without parents, I guess that would be different, but I don't know. It's kind of a random thing to start with. And his grandparents seemed like characters. I'm not making fun of them, but I mean, he did in a very loving way, sort of. Is everyone like that who grew up during World War I? I don't know. A lot of books I've been checking out recently, they do this like creative thing. For example, loads of cinematic wartime music and sound samples in between or during chapters. Another example, an accompanying PDF full of childhood pictures. As I've said in the reviews of these books, these things add plenty of depth to the listening experience that just wouldn't be there otherwise. And I'm sure that maybe they would drive some people insane, but guess what?
This book has that. It does.
When he talks about his grandparents, there are like audio samples that play of him talking about them on stage, and even arguments that they have with each other. He has samples of them arguing with each other. I don't know how he got that. I don't know if he recorded when he was a teenager. I don't know if they're acted out. They're probably acted out. I don't know, but that was a very captivating add-on to me. What's admirable in me, regardless, is how he used comedy to like get closer to his grandparents. Unknowingly, it seems like his family was like, in his own eyes, kind of unnecessarily diligent. Maybe not unnecessarily diligent, maybe just diligent about unnecessary things, like how long his grandpa wore each of his socks and making sure to label his left foot 1 and his right foot 2 on the socks before like buying new ones or something. I don't remember. Or his mom treating outings like climbing Everest, counting how many snacks per hour and like calorie intake. One thing's for sure, as you'd probably expect of any comedian, the storytelling is really there. And when you combine that with the whole samples of conversations thing, which isn't just in that chapter about his grandparents, it's in that chapter about it's in every chapter. It makes for a very delightful listening experience. Now, there is plenty in this book about what it's like to be a Canadian Jew. And I guess an American Jew, because I don't know how I've gone this far into the review without mentioning it, but I was raised Reformed, so the circumcision, the bar mitzvah, the bar and bat mitzvahs and parties of other people, the almost decade that I spent at a Jewish private school, the 7 summers I spent at a Jewish sleepaway camp, 4 or 5 of which were full summers. Most people just went 1 month. I don't know if he mentioned the youth groups, which the one I was in during high school was basically like the Jewish high school version of a frat with no drinking or sex or anything like that, which is basically impossible because it's high school. Years and years of my childhood, some of the funniest, most disgusting and obscene, triumphant, touching, maybe saddest and loneliest moments of my life happened easily as a byproduct of everything I just listed. Not that anyone would think he's bluffing, but it is all very, very accurate. What I really loved hearing, aside from the stories, was like when he would talk about movies he used to watch. Like, it's so evident how passionate he is about this stuff. I'm sure this might be something like what I sound like when I talk about certain books I've reviewed. There's another chapter where, you know, it explores Rogen's experience with a certain 4-syllable P word. The next chapter is called Yearbook. This chapter explored the beginning of his use and experimentation with drugs, weed and alcohol, surprise, shrooms, I think ecstasy somewhere, and what else? I believe PCP and cocaine were mentioned too. There's stuff that makes our lives better that hasn't been stigmatized, and no one gives those things a second thought. Nobody thinks about why they have a strong desire to wear shoes. Nobody says that people who wear shoes are denying reality. Instead, the consensus on shoes is that we use them to adapt to reality. If we don't wear them, our feet will hurt. They make our journey more comfortable, and we don't judge ourselves for wearing them. Some of the stories here may not, and this perplexed me really kind of through the whole book. It was also intriguing to me, and it definitely didn't, again, enjoy the listening experience, but some of the stories here may not even really, they might not even be that crazy. They might just be like normal stories that are told in a way that makes them sound crazy. Or not, they could just be pretty crazy. I also admire when he spoke about the moment that he started writing about his own life and what he does and has been through. A lot of artists, musicians, authors, I swear, unless you're Robert Greene or Malcolm Gladwell or Charles Duhigg, writing about your life like it's the coolest thing ever. I'm just saying this because these guys don't even, they're like historians and stuff. They don't write about their lives. They write about what they study. But writing about your life like it's the coolest thing ever, anyone who listens or watches or reads it, it's gonna stick, they're more likely to stick to it. Especially today because of how genuine and authentic, how much more of that it'll sound. Like instead of joking about the most random things like bicycle cops, I didn't know those existed, and crazy glue. What is crazy glue? Is that like Gorilla Glue? For example, he would rather joke now about the one relationship he had in high school at the time, the only one he had in his life that lasted 3 days. I also like that he was just very young when he got into comedy. I think he was like 14 when he started writing jokes, and you can tell that he had always been into it ever since like way younger than 14. There's a story also when Seth Rogen and his friend Ben went to like a nightclub or something in Amsterdam while they were on shrooms. Or no, it was a sex club. And let me tell you, the grand finale of the show that night was so ridiculous. Like again, I don't know if the stories are ridiculous or they're told in a ridiculous way, but I can't help thinking that over the years, Rogen has viciously developed this ability to make the difference between those two things, crazy stories and normal stories that sound crazy, totally unclear, as if there is no difference. Apparently he and another friend of his, they took the opportunity to try out for a role, both of them for the same role, in the movie 8 Mile. I would never expect Seth Rogen to be in 8 Mile. They both left the audition because they were rehearsing the lines and they couldn't take them seriously. They actually found the lines that they were rehearsing too ridiculous and hilarious to take seriously. Like, seriously? Ladies and gentlemen, a successful actor and comedian at the same time. And these stories, you know, they're about his life, but they don't seem that random either. Or actually, they kind of do. Like, it can't be that significant to him the time that everyone was saying that the world is going to end on December 21st, 2012. Like, what is the significance of that 9 years later? You guys remember that? Wasn't that strange? Or the time that he was on an edible and he really needed to wake up. So he figured, you know, there's a Burger King nearby. They were serving this thing called the Angry Whopper at the time. Apparently it was originally called the Angriest Whopper. A flame-grilled quarter-pound beef patty topped with American cheese, angry sauce. What is angry sauce? Crispy angry onion petals, smoked bacon, a slice of melted cheese, shredded iceberg lettuce, and slices of jalapeno and tomato on a sesame seed bun. What's the significance of that story? I don't get it. You have definitely made it somewhere in life if someone on Eminem's team to meet with him at the Grammys so we can introduce you to Dr. Dre and Rihanna. And then you do that, and then you end up meeting Kanye as well, and then Beyonce, and then Snoop Dogg, and you end up collaborating with Snoop Dogg in a movie. He also spoke about putting together their movie, The Interview, which turned into this huge fiasco of Foreign Affairs, where the North Korea ambassador referred to the movie as an act of war or terrorism. Like, it's a movie. It's just insane stories and storytelling to me that is clearly the best thing about this book, other than, you know, of course, that delightful listening experience I was making. That's what I found myself thinking over and over and over again. It's just ridiculous story after ridiculous story. And the storytelling, it was captivating. It was funny too. It just, again, it wasn't like laugh out loud funny. Something else to keep in mind is that my sense of humor, maybe his style is just, it's not one size fits all. Then there's a ridiculous story about filming a scene in I think it was The Interview, with a tiger in it, a real life tiger. Then there's a ridiculous story about his communication with Jack Dorsey over like a almost 1 year period about Twitter verification. It's just random. And after that is a chapter containing a ridiculous story about a conversation that Rogen had with Tom Cruise and his belief in a Scientological alien civilization leader named Xenu. Huh? Like, one of the last chapters, I'm surprised he went this far into the book without talking about acid. In retrospect, I mean, maybe the last like 40, 50 seconds I spent talking about how this book is full of ridiculous stories. Just in case I haven't mentioned, this book is full of ridiculous stories. Well, like, if you're expecting anything very profound, like insights, there are certain standards he holds himself up to and values as a person. I don't want to lie to the public about what I said or did in this movie just to make this work, because that's not how I want to know that things went down throughout my career. Or I don't want to hear from or work with Twitter verified anti-Semites, and why are they Twitter verified if they're anti-Semites and they're being openly anti-Semitic? I don't know. That's like the most profound to me that I got. I heard in the end that a guy named Scott Cresswell did the production and sound design, and I probably very badly counted how many voices are in the audiobook. But if anything, I know the actual number is at least 65. 65! I've never heard that many people before in a book. Maybe I have, but I don't think I have. And editing and publishing and production and whatnot, there are at least 5 to 10 of those. Quotes. Discussing stigmatization against drug use, sunglasses literally change your view of reality, and no one gives them a hard time for it. Referring to an experience when someone wanted to pay for 9 pre-written jokes of his when he was told they would pay for 10. Just because you write something doesn't mean anyone else has to see it or hear it. It still exists just as much as anything else does. Sometimes you pitch an idea so good that you get hired just because the person you pitched knows it's an idea they need to use, and they would feel guilty using it if they didn't hire you. Said by Sacha Baron Cohen, talking about bad press in other countries. If you want more attention, talk. If you want less, say nothing at all. Direction 1. I recommend this book, of course, for anyone who wants to learn more about Seth Rogen, and anyone who wants some very accessible storytelling. Again, maybe not that accessible. There's plenty of cursing in this book. There's talk about sex and drugs. If that's not your thing, but you're able to listen to it, I would check it out. But I mean, I guess listen at your own discretion. Direction 2. If you like this book, you might really, really like Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And you might also like, I haven't checked this one out, but I've heard amazing things about it, I Can't Make This Up by Kevin Hart. Yearbook by Seth Rogen. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. If you guys buy anything through the links in the description, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please, please, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up, excuse me, and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.